You've seen them everywhere, on street corners, in gas stations, tucked into Walmart stores. With over 37,000 locations worldwide, Subway became the largest restaurant chain on earth, surpassing even McDonald's. The promise was simple: own your own business for less than $100,000. Be your own boss, live the American dream. Behind the fresh-baked bread and the Eat Fresh clothes slogan lies one of the most controversial franchise models ever created. A system where the parent company profits while thousands of franchisees struggle to break even. A business model so aggressive that it's been called exploitative by former franchise owners, industry analysts, and even sued by its own franchisees. This is the story of how Subway grew from a single sandwich shop in Connecticut to a global empire built on the backs of franchisees who discovered too late that the dream they bought into was designed to benefit everyone except them. Our story begins in 1965 with Fred DeLuca, a 17-year-old kid who needed money for college. Family friend Dr. Peter Buck loaned him $1,000 to open a submarine sandwich shop in Bridgeport, Connecticut. They called it Pete's Super Submarines. The first shop struggled. So did the second. By the third location, they realized something. They couldn't make it work themselves, but maybe others could. In 1974, they began franchising. Here's where Subway's story diverges from traditional franchises. While McDonald's required hundreds of thousands in startup capital and maintained strict quality control, Subway took the opposite approach: make it cheap and easy to open. The initial franchise fee was exceptionally low compared to competitors. The startup costs were minimal. The training was brief. Subway's pitch was irresistible. You could own a business for a fraction of what other franchises cost. But there was a catch, several actually. First, franchisees paid an 8% royalty on gross sales, not profits. Whether you made money or lost money, Subway got paid. Then there was a 4.5% advertising fee. Also on gross sales, that's 12.5% off the top before you pay rent, employees, food costs, or yourself. Second, Subway controlled the supply chain. Franchisees had to buy from approved suppliers, many connected to Subway corporate, at prices they couldn't negotiate. Some former franchisees claimed these markups added another hidden fee to their operations. Third, and most damaging, was Subway's growth strategy: market saturation. In the 1990s and 2000s, Subway embarked on an aggressive expansion. The goal wasn't just to grow, it was to be everywhere. Development agents who earned fees for every new location opened were incentivized to open as many stores as possible. Here's the problem: they often opened new Subways within blocks of existing ones. Imagine you're a franchisee. You invested your life savings, you're working 80-hour weeks, and just when you start building a customer base, Subway approves another location half a mile away, then another. Your sales plummet. Your investment crumbles. This wasn't an accident. Internal documents and lawsuits later revealed that Subway knowingly oversaturated markets because it benefited corporates. More stores meant more franchise fees, more royalties, more supplier markups. It didn't matter if individual stores failed, the company still made money. By 2015, Subway reached its peak. Nearly 27,000 locations in the United States alone. That's more than McDonald's, Burger King, and Wendy's combined. But here's the disturbing part: average sales per location were falling. Industry analysts reported that the average Subway location generated around $400,000 to $500,000 in annual revenue. After paying that 12.5% to corporate, rent, labor, food costs, and utilities, many franchisees were taking home less than $30,000 a year, sometimes nothing at all, or losing money. Compare that to Chick-fil-A, which carefully limits locations and averages over $4 million per store, with franchisees earning substantial profits. Frustrated franchisees began fighting back. In 2001, franchisees in California sued over territorial encroachment. More lawsuits followed throughout the 2000s and 2010s. Franchisees alleged that Subway breached contracts, violated franchise laws, and engaged in unfair business practices. The North American Association of Subway Franchisees, representing thousands of owners, repeatedly clashed with corporate over the saturation issue, supply costs, and operational demands. But Subway had deep pockets and armies of lawyers. Most cases settled quietly. The expansion continued. Market saturation created another problem: a race to the bottom on quality. With thin margins, franchisees cut corners where they could. Labor costs were minimized, meaning undertrained staff and poor service. Ingredient quality suffered, store maintenance declined, Subway's reputation began to crumble. The Eat Fresh slogan rang hollow as scandals emerged. In 2014, food blogger Vani Hari discovered that Subway's bread contained azotocarbonamide, a chemical also used in yoga mats and shoe rubber. The public outcry forced Subway to remove it, but the damage was done. Then came the foot-long lawsuit. Customers discovered that Subway's foot-long sandwiches were often 11 inches or shorter. A class action lawsuit followed, highlighting quality control issues. And we can't ignore the Jared Fogle disaster. The spokesman who became synonymous with the brand was convicted of horrific crimes in 2015, creating a PR nightmare that haunted the company for years. Subway began closing stores by the thousands. From nearly 27,000 U.S. locations in 2015, the chain dropped to around 20,000 by 2023. Globally, closures accelerated. But here's the key point. While franchisees suffered and lost their investments, corporate continued profiting from those who remained. The business model was fundamentally extractive. Let's talk to the people who lived this. Former franchisees have gone public with their stories, describing 80 to 100-hour workweeks, inability to hire adequate staff due to margins, constant pressure from corporate to participate in promotions that further reduced profits, and the impossibility of selling their franchises because potential buyers could see the numbers. One former franchisee described it as buying yourself a job that pays less than minimum wage. Another called it indentured servitude with a sandwich menu. The franchise model works well when corporate and franchisees have aligned interests. When McDonald's location succeeds, both the franchisee and corporate benefit substantially. But Subway's model worked even when franchisees failed. Every struggling store still paid those royalties on gross sales. Every struggling franchisee still bought from approved suppliers at marked-up prices. This raises an important question. If the model was so bad, why did people keep buying Subway franchises? Several reasons. First, the low entry cost attracted people with limited capital and business experience, exactly the people least equipped to recognize the red flags. Second, Subway's brand recognition and marketing made it seem like a sure thing. Third, many franchisees were immigrants pursuing the American dream, trusting that a major corporation would treat them fairly. The complexity of franchise disclosure documents, hundreds of pages of legal jargon, meant many franchisees didn't fully understand what they were signing until it was too late. Subway's story isn't unique. It's an extreme example of a broader problem in franchising. When corporations design systems that profit regardless of franchisee success, the incentive structure breaks down. The franchise model can be positive. It allows entrepreneurship with established brand support, proven systems, and shared success. But it requires good faith from the franchisor. It requires the parent company to view franchisees as partners, not profit centers to be exploited. Subway demonstrated what happens when a company optimizes purely for corporate profit. Market saturation destroys franchisee profitability. Low margins compromise quality and brand value. Franchisees become trapped in failing investments, and the entire system eventually collapses. There have been attempts to reform Subway. New ownership in 2024, when the company was sold to Roark Capital for nearly $10 billion, promised changes. But the fundamental structure remains largely intact. Some franchise advocacy groups have pushed for legislation protecting franchisees from territorial encroachment and unfair practices. Some states have strengthened franchise laws. But change is slow, and the power imbalance remains significant. Today, Subway is in transition. The store count continues to decline as the chain closes underperforming locations. The brand is trying to refresh its image with remodels and menu changes, but the damage to franchisee relations and public perception is substantial. The Subway story is a cautionary tale about the dark side of franchising. It shows how a business model can be legally structured to extract value from small business owners while protecting corporate interests. It demonstrates that brand size doesn't equal franchisee success, and it reveals how thousands of people can invest their savings into a dream that was designed from the start to primarily benefit someone else. For aspiring entrepreneurs, the lesson is clear. Investigate thoroughly before buying any franchise. Look beyond the marketing to the actual economics. Talk to existing franchisees, especially struggling ones. Calculate realistic profits, not corporate projections. Understand that the franchise disclosure document is written to protect the franchisor, not you. And perhaps most importantly, understand that in some franchise systems, you're not buying a business partnership. You're buying the right to make someone else rich. Subway built an empire of over 37,000 locations worldwide, but it built that empire on a foundation of franchisee struggles, oversaturated markets, and an extractive business model that prioritized corporate profits over franchisee success. The most successful franchise isn't the one with the most locations. It's the one where franchisees and franchisors succeed together. Subway's story proves what happens when that balance is broken. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this insight into Subway's strategy, be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. This is Business Explained.